Hi, intrepid viewers. Dr. Lena here, and welcome to the Time War that's 2024. Are you finding that's happening? Like, on the one hand, things seem to be accelerating and the days and weeks are going really fast. And then on the other hand, we seem to spend our entire waking lives waiting for another judge or another panel of judges to make another decision about something that should have been sorted out 4 years ago. So it's like this accordion. Time's doing really weird things. But since we last spoke, I think it's not an exaggeration to say the Republican Party has passed. It's gone. So Rona McDaniel got kicked out to be replaced by, what's his face, Michael Whatley. Has anyone ever heard of Michael Whatley? So apart from being an election denier, I think that's the job description. You have to worship at the Yeti's feet, which would not be a pleasant place to be. So he's notionally the chair, along with Lara Trump. These people have no experience in politics at all. She wouldn't have, raised money for trick or treat. She's got no clue about anything. And now she is the co-chair of the RNC. So I want to find out how the big donors are feeling about this, because would you want your money behind this lot of acrobats and trapeze flyers, really? So how are the big donors feeling about what's left of the GOP? So it's now the MAGA party, fully fledged. So what do the donors make of this? Let's have a look. Let's have a look. And down in the Valley of the Hyenas Congress, Ken Buck from Colorado has resigned effective next week. So they've got one less person in Congress already, because they're tripping over themselves to retire, resign, and the rest get kicked out by the beautiful Lara. Okay, so how are the donors feeling? Let's have a look. Yeah, these cards, 3 of the 5 are about money. So we're on target here. But look, this was the first card out. Ace of Pentacles. So this is a gesture of money, because there are enough right-wing, self-serving billionaires, and they'll always donate to someone who's going to give them another tax cut, right? So they do exist. But what these other cards are saying is not all of them. So there are some who will agree to keep funding. Basically, they're lining up to fund the legal nightmare of their esteemed leader. And they're the ones who are still old guard, right? This is the marriage card, and they're committed to what's left of the Republican Party. But this is also fool's gold. Not as many of them are going to support the MAGA party. They're holding on to their money. What they're worried about, this could be the volatility, the impulsive knight here. The Knight of Swords is very impulsive, racing into the headwinds. This represents the sort of MTGs, the Matt Gaetz, the Jim Jordan element. They're not actually that comfortable with it. They prefer that their own corruption is hidden and covered up smoothly, right? Rather than drawing attention to themselves. So they're not entirely happy. And they're weighing up their options. I think if Nikki Haley had got deeper into the primaries, She sort of mistimed her run in a way. If she'd had an extra, month at the beginning and month at the end, she was causing some damage. But as we know on this channel, that's another nightmare that I'm sure we'll have to deal with in 2028, is Nikki Haley on the fly. Okay, so they're evaluating the landscape, but they're not happy that now it's been announced their money will be given to the leader. What happened to the separation of cult and state? I mean, really, it's all out there. So they're watching developments, but I think those the billionaires are one thing. It's the ultra conservatives like the Federalist Society you've got to worry about too, because they're the ones, running around, can't go to a meeting because they've got books to burn. Can you believe in the 21st century we're looking at this stuff? I sometimes think I'm in a medieval horror movie. I'm sure you guys do too. Okay, but speaking of billionaires, the E. Jean Carroll case, she has every right to sue again, which sounds okay, but it's then another year and a half or 2 years of your life. Let's see if there's going to be a gag order, and then we'll talk about the money again. If I was E. Jean Carroll or her very, very good lawyer, be trying for a gag order. I mean, in itself, to be fined $85 million for defaming someone could be seen as a gag order. And I think in most cases, with most people, it would effectively be a gag order, but patently not, because the Yeti has absolute no connection between the hollow cranium and the fetid lips. There's nothing going on. Oh, what fell out? Okay. So let's keep going here. Will there be a gag order? So the first cut, the one that leapt out, was this has wounded Trump slightly, but not enough. He will not shut up. Here is his same card. This is him, an immature knight who's set off from the castle and isn't quite in control of his horse. And this is the court system, King of Swords. Will he get a gag order? I think probably yes, I'd say with these. Another question, will he abide by the gag order? But they've got to do something, or apparently they don't. But, in most first world countries, they do. So maybe this is what this is. It's about a gag order. But now we know he has secured the money for this case, 91 million, put up by Chubb, subsidiary of some obscure Russian outfit. Now, this is a national security risk. I can't believe this. So we've got the monitor in New York, the ex-judge, right, monitoring his money, and she's doing a good job following it and stuff. But she doesn't have teeth to act. It then has to go back to a court. So is it not an obvious national security crisis if this man is getting money from these sources, let alone the big money down the track? So let's see if there's going to be any action on where Trump gets his money for stuff. Will there be any legal repercussions? The timely repercussions. Where he gets the money. Oh, look at these again. You know, so Queen of Pentacles, in this case, I would say this is Beryl, the financial monitor, managing the money. Well, not managing it. She can't make decisions about where it goes. I'm beginning to realize how limited her role is. It's basically just keeping the tab running, but at least someone is watching it so he doesn't transfer assets and all of that. That's important. But this is a different ball game with this money. I think legal people are trying to decide yet again how to do it because there's no precedent for it. No previous president has said, I know, I'm a bit short of money. I'll just go to Russia or I'll go to Middle Eastern oligarchs or any oligarchs, really. Give me an oligarch. So they're deciding what to do with him. They understand there is manipulation and risk involved. I think there is someone, this is quite a compelling person, the Knight of Wands, who has something to say about this. In other words, there could be someone who makes a legal case that they are being put at risk by the Yeti not being reined in. This horse is reined in. That is a national security risk. So I think someone will take up the case. But I'll be well into my 70s by the time that comes out. So I think there will be a repercussion. But on the joy front, Letitia James says, I walk past 40 Wall Street every day. I think he is going to struggle to find the bigger sum of money because I looked up some stats here. 40 Wall Street used to be owned by the Marcoses, the previous dictators of the Philippines. Is there a pattern here? But like Trump Plaza, he only has a 64-year ground lease and 121 million is owing on that as of next year. And Trump Tower, he only owns the retail space, the car park, and I think 2 apartments or something. So he hasn't got that much. But here's the thing. Rich people, even mad rich people, or maybe especially rich people who are mad, you think, who would loan him money because he's such a bad risk, right? It's the question on everyone's lips. But you've got to remember, certain people will always be addicted to being in the proximity of power, and gambling is a thing. And it doesn't matter if it's your uncle who spends his last 20 bucks on the horses or high flyers in the Middle East. They would gamble $100 or $300 million in a weekend. So he can still attract people who would look at it as a gamble. It's different for Chubb, right? I think they've got sign-offs on his assets. They're doing it as a straight business deal. Yeah. I'm talking about potential people to bail him out of the big money. And for a princeling who gets bored and is sick of going to Monte Carlo, could simply say, well, he might get in and become president and then I own him. Wouldn't that be cute? Having a president of the United States in my back pocket. Oh. So this is how crazy it's got, Mega crazy. Okay. So also, in case you missed it, there's a company called Orbis. Remember the Steele dossier and all that? And now Trump lost a case with them and has to pay out $382,000 or something. Now, what I really wanted to get onto was, oh yeah, Brian Butler, employee 5. We have to do that. Let's have a look at that. And then I want to have a quick look at Trump and Biden head to head, how they're going. Okay. Brian Butler. He worked for the Yeti for 20 years. Now he spilled his guts. Well, you would, because people in the understory go to jail and the others don't, it would appear. So let's have a look at Brian Butler. He's been talking to Jack Smith about moving boxes. Brian Butler's testimony. And look, I hope you're all lighting candles for Fani, and I hope you're all lighting candles for Aileen Cannon. I'm sorry she has to stumble off into the sunset. So we want positive candles and we want vanishing candles. Don't get them mixed up. Put them in different places. Okay, Brian Butler, how important is his testimony? Apparently the Yeti was spewing, as we say in Australia, which is slang for vomiting, about this. So what did he say? Oh, it's so weird. The carte du jour. I was raving on. Look, I think this is a story of a lot of people who work for the Yeti, right? And I think it's going to be a story for a lot of the MAGA files as well. They think he's their friend. Like, this is breaking the man's heart to have to give testimony. I'm sorry. Speaking of vomiting, I'll just go off camera. Broken heart. Thought he was his best mate. He got carried away. Can you imagine? You've had an ordinary job doing ordinary things and suddenly you're working for this, this guy, and all of a sudden you find you're working for the President of the United States. I mean, it's been a wild ride. We can't underestimate that. But he has to be strategic and walk away from that partnership and tell the truth. So he has damning evidence because he's been inside in that way that Trump has for a very long time. And yeah, he's sad. So that would indicate he's given up some meaningful stuff. Okay. So let's have a look. Questions from viewers. One is from Florida. Will there be a class action against the government of Florida for ignoring the science and now making virtually everyone on the coast and riverways looking at being uninsured into the future? So let's have a look. Will there be a class action? Okay, class action in Florida. And then we'll move to the presidential candidate. Class action. Will there be a class action about ignoring climate change? I just heard Texas. Oh my God. So we'll see what Florida says, but I think there'll be one in Texas. Oh my God. Oh, look at this. Look at this. Oh my God. Yeah, well, people are bearing the burden of, now this isn't just America. Australia's been waffling on about climate change for 40 years and doing nothing. The UK rabbits on endlessly and does nothing. It's a collective burden on the world, and it's time. It's not 5 minutes to midnight anymore. It's 2 minutes to midnight. And they've got to get their act together because their asses are going to be sued, I can tell you. This is the legal stuff. I think there'll be enough proof, because you don't bring a big class action unless you've got proof of how these decisions were made to ignore climate change because of people being chained to fossil fuels, other big industries. I think the chains will become apparent. I think this won't be quick, but it will be big. And the only thing that's going to even curb this behaviour is the cost of. And here comes the judge. Okay, so Florida, and I would say Texas, I think people should sign on now. If there isn't one, why not start one? You know, look at it as a part-time job for the next 5 years. The government should have to pay to rebuild houses that were swept away that couldn't be insured. It'll get people thinking. Now, I'll look at the big guns. So I'm going to pull 3 cards for Biden, 3 cards for Trump. This is now, this is not November, because as we all know, anything can happen between now and then. I feel seriously, both these men are vulnerable in some way in the sense of their health. For Biden. Okay. But let's have a look how they're going as we sit here. And I'll do Biden first. He's had a rough few weeks, but the State of the Union was epic. Okay. Biden. Well, that's quite good to see. Trump. Not as bad as I thought, at least. Always good to see good news for Joe because he's got a lot on his plate. Okay. Oops, Trump as we speak. Oh, no. Oh, that's hilarious. All right, Biden first. Now, 9 of Pentacles, I think what his strength is, I think these cards are talking about more or less the ground he covered in the State of the Union address, right? He's talking about keeping American values in the form of these pentacles and speaking about families and to families, right? He sort of did get across something that actually those who do sit down as families and talk about this stuff, which isn't the majority, but anyway, those who do, that got through. And he's going to come up with a plan, sort of like the infrastructure plan or another thing to go with in the next few months that impacts everybody and offers a good financial sort of mega proposal. And he's talking with people behind the scenes. Now, this isn't getting into foreign policy and other problems on his face. This is just the energy around him now. He's having quite a good week. Trump is business as usual. How much can I grift and steal? Oh, I know, the kids. I haven't tapped them for enough yet, and Tiffany's just married someone rich. And he feels he's had a victory in the sense of the nepotism. He has now got a stranglehold on the GOP. So let's just do a couple of health cards for each of them. And again, this isn't determining everything. Oh, I can't shuffle today. I mean, let's start again. Maybe I shouldn't talk about their health today. Maybe that's what the message is about. Okay, their health. Biden's health first. Okay. And yeah, emotion. Oh, that's interesting. So here's the thing. Everyone's going on about Biden's cognitive decline, and swords can be about the intellect and so forth. But what I love about the Ten of Swords, and remember this, if you're either a new reader or you get it, you're having a reading from someone, you get the Ten of Swords and go, ooh, people can't hurt you anymore after this, right? Everyone's done their bit. They're going to keep saying it. They'll keep saying it. But people now have decided whether he's up to it or not, and they can't hurt him anymore with these swords. They'll find other swords and other points. But for now, Phoenix rising, he's on a bit of an up. He's inhabited his Emperor energy. This is often my Trump guy, but it's like he brought tough guy Joe along with the humanitarian, compassionate person, right? But people needed to see tough Joe. They know the other side. They needed to see it. So I think that's helping his well-being this week. On the other hand, with Trump, he has a world of hurt to deal with, and the world is watching because we are incredulous how it's come down to, him being an inch away from running in the next election. But he's over emotional. And because he doesn't do emotions, I think he could have even been crying a bit this week. That's very unusual because narcissists hide behind the fact anything that goes wrong is everyone else's fault. And they don't get emotions. They don't understand why someone else would be angry or hurt or upset or anything like that. So I think this could also be, and I'm not being frivolous about this, if there is real dementia at play, it breaks down people's ability to hide their emotions. So I think we're going to see this overflow, this spillage of emotion this week. And when you're used to working for a bully and a sociopath and stuff, and let's face it, most of us have had those as bosses at some time. The one thing that's really scary is when they break down. It's really, ooh. Well, we'll see. I've always maintained there'll be an intervention with Trump before the end, before November, but let's see. All right, my darlings. So write to me in the comments, please. Let me know what you're thinking and feeling. And make sure you don't just leave it to Taylor Swift. Get the hustle on. Who can you register? Look at it as a personal challenge. Who can you help register to vote? Okay. Love you. Ciao. Ciao, ciao.